Today we are going to cover install Minikube on Ubuntu EC2. So get the Minikube official guide and let's understand what is the Minikube and what are the system requirements for the Minikube. So this is the official website of Minikube. So here you can see that Minikube you can set up as a local Kubernetes cluster on Mac OS, Linux, and Windows. And we proudly focus on helping application developers and new Kubernetes users. In the real-time scenario, we don't use Minikube. This is a local Kubernetes cluster just for practice. Then, so what are the features of Minikube?
So this in the place of Minikube, what we will use?
Yes, instead of so in the real-time scenario, we use the KubeADM, COPS, EKS. In Azure, we have the Azure Kubernetes service. In Google, we have the Google Kubernetes engine.
Okay, those things we need to buy, right? That's why you are explaining this on Minikube.
Yes. So Minikube, so all are using the AWS free tier account.
Okay.
So for other installation method except Minikube, other installation method requires more than one instance. So one for master, one for worker with 2 CPU, minimum 2 CPU and 4 GB RAM. Okay, or maybe 2 GB RAM, 2 CPU and 4 GB RAM this requires. So every time you can set up the cluster and just practice, and so a better way to you can set up the Minikube cluster and you can practice some of the topic on the Kubernetes topic on the Minikube. Okay, so what are the highlights here? Supports for latest Kubernetes release +6 previous minor version, cross-platform Linux, Mac OS, Windows. Then deploy as a VM container or a bare metal. Then multiple container runtime, CRIO, container, Docker. Then Docker API endpoint for blazing fast image process. Then advanced features such as load balancer, file system mount, feature gates. So almost all of Kubernetes supports Minikube. Then add-ons for easily install Kubernetes application. So you can add add-ons and support common CI environments. Okay, so I'm common CI environment, GitLab, Jenkins. So here we can go to this. So CI Minikube CI, Azure pipeline, Docker file, this Travis, GitLab, then this one GCP, Cloud Build, Azure pipeline. So we can integrate this Minikube with the CI tool also, like GitLab and this TeamCity, like Travis, like TeamCity and Azure pipeline. So load balancer, what are the load balancer supports Minikube? Here we can give Minikube. Then we can expose our service. So here also we can get started. So here to set up the Minikube, okay, what we need previous. So Minikube is a local Kubernetes focusing on making it easy to learn, develop for Kubernetes. All you need is Docker or similarly compatible container or virtual machine environment, and Kubernetes is a single command away Minikube start. Okay, so what a prerequisite we need? 2 CPU, minimum 2 CPU or more, 2 GB of free memory, 20 GB of free disk space, then internet connection, then container or virtual machine such as Docker, HyperKit, Hyper-V, KVM, Parallel, Podman, VirtualBox, VMware, Fusion Workstation. So on these environment, Minikube supports. So we have the AWS free tier account, so we can set up on the AWS EC2 instance. So instructions are given to set up the Minikube local Kubernetes cluster. So for Linux, Mac OS, Windows, then architecture, this one release type, stable, beta, then installation type, exe download, Windows package manager or chocolatey. So here we are going to set up on the Ubuntu EC2 instance. So all are commands.
Ubuntu commands.
Yes. Then commands are here, and you can read about more commands, all these things. So here, basic concept, basic control, all this one you can read out going through the official guide. But for now, this, as I said you, in a real-time scenario, we don't use. So just for practice purpose. So this is enough. Okay. So in one line word, Minikube is a local Kubernetes cluster. Okay. So then there also official guide, Kubernetes supports Minikube. Yes. So here we have to open some ports. Okay. Also, so you can read about the Kubernetes port range. Okay, default Kubernetes port range is 30,000 to 32767. Okay, and also,
like Shivdas, for Jenkins, we have 8080.
yes.
So like that, is there any constant port for this, or it will be between 30,000 to?
For node port service, there is a service type is node port to export our microservice. So this is the port range, node port service. Okay, and also you can also read. We have the official guide. Means we have our article. That also I will cover. So this will help. So this is the range. Okay. So in so for master, already we have seen that Kubernetes has a master and worker node. So the node we can also call it as a control plane node. So here for master node we need these ports. Okay, so for Kubernetes API server, okay, used by all, and port number is 6443. Okay, so Minikube also uses the API server. So every Kubernetes cluster has all these components, and these are the port range. So API server 6443 we have to open. Then etcd server client API used by Kube API server etcd port range this one. Then for kubelet API port number this one 10250. This will port number self. Then for Kube control manager, this is a port. So while setting up the cluster, any cluster, so we have to open these ports. Okay, otherwise the component will not work. On the worker node, we need a kubelet API, so same port number. And already we have seen that kubelet is the agent which is installed on the. We have to install
both
master and worker node. This is interface between the master and worker node. So it same port number. Then worker node, and already we have seen that services will run on only on worker node. So this is the node port services to expose our microservices. So there are different services in Kubernetes. So one of the is node port service. Okay, so later remaining we will see later.
Okay.
So we have to keep. Okay, so so to set up the any Kubernetes cluster, we have to open 6443 for API server. This one port range, all the port number we have to open. But Kubernetes cluster have their automation method. They open all the port number by default. That we will okay. For now, start focus on the Minikube. So we have to open this 6443 port. Okay. So we have opened all the ports. So let's, as per the official guide, so let's create a Ubuntu EC2 instance with 2 CPU, 2 GB, 20 GB. So let's log in. I have logged into the AWS account. So let's click on launch a virtual machine. And let's select the AMI. So here we'll select the Ubuntu server 20.04 LTS. Select. So we need a 2 CPU and 2 GB RAM. So which instance is good? T2 medium. So let's select that which has 2 CPU and 4 GB RAM. And that is a requirement. So then we need a 20 GB free disk space. So here let's keep the default setting. Then add storage, we need a 20 GB. Then click on add tags, then configure security group. So let's select the existing, I'm selecting the default security group. For now, I have opened all the port. Okay, but you can also open the port for practice, and that port range defined. So this port number you can open. For now, I have opened all the ports. So let's click on review and
in real time it will be a security, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir. So in the real time scenario, we have to open the specific port only. So then let's select the key pair. Then click on launch instance. Then click on view instance. Then let's give the name.
You can also mention master or slave work or something. Easy.
No, this is only, it contains only master and worker node only.
Okay.
Okay, so let's connect to this EC2 instance. Something error is giving. Okay, power got.
Okay.
So let's connect to this EC2 instance. The key pair. Default username is Ubuntu. Let's increase the font size. So here we have the instruction to install Minikube on Ubuntu EC2 instance. So for the first, let's update the system packages on Ubuntu using the apt command.
Sudo apt update.
Yes. Then we have to install the kubectl packages. Already we have seen that kubectl is a command line interface.
Yeah, QCTL.
Yes. So let's download the kubectl. Then we have to give the executable permission to the kubectl. So here we can see the kubectl is downloaded. Then we have to give the executable permission to the setup.
What is this, Shukas? I saw a lot of places that command.
Yes. So as per the packages now, so depending this package is released by the Kubernetes. So they have defined that which step are recommended to configure the kubectl on the Ubuntu. So this step we have to follow. So this command I have copied from the Kubernetes official guide. They have said that to install the kubectl on Ubuntu, so first you have to download. It will download the package. Then we have to give the executable permission. Then we have to move this kubectl to the user local bin. So all the executable files present in the user local bin. Okay. Then we can check the kubectl version. Command is kubectl. Okay, we can see the kubectl version. Version 1.22.3.
It mentioned as a Git version, no sure.
No, this Git version. Git version. Okay, sorry. Git version. Okay. Maybe they have place in central Git. Okay. Okay, we have opened the port. So then next, let's install the Docker. Docker we need.
Because where do you find these commands? From official website?
Some of the official website.
Okay.
So here. Installation Linux. So they have just installed these packages. So already they have mentioned the prerequisite Docker. So that's why they are assuming that you have already installed Docker. Okay. So that's why just they directly shared command this Minikube start. Okay. But we are doing
share this URL in the group, Nashula. So after the class, we can follow.
The whole document I will share.
Okay.
Then we have installed the Docker. So let's check Docker is running or not. Docker service. Command is sudo system status Docker. Docker is running.
Running active.
Then we have to give one more permission to configure Docker with sudo. We have to add this Docker into the sudoverse group.
So whenever we run any command in the Docker, we no need to use sudo, right? For if we use this.
Yes, some Docker commands don't run. So that's why we have to add the Docker into the Docker group user. We have to give this permission. So as I said, you install the Docker, now it will create a users group, CLI, then Docker daemon services. Then we have to download the Minikube. Download Minikube. So this command directly they have mentioned on their official site. This one. So let's download using the curl. You can see the Minikube is downloaded. Then we have to give the executable permission to the Minikube setup. Then we have to move this Minikube to the user locally. Then we can check the Minikube version. What is Minikube version? 1.24. Then we have to start the Minikube. So VM driver, we are not using any VM driver. Okay, we are setting up the Google Cloud. We can use either both command. So let's use this one. So here we are getting this one existing due to a guest missing contract. Minikube 1.20.3 requires contract to be installed in the root path. This requirement only for the when we install on the Ubuntu EC2 instance. So this for this solution, we have to install this package extra. Again, we have to start the Minikube. So let's start again. So we are running, we have done setup using the normal user. Okay. So Minikube cluster is starting. So it will install the kubectl using kubectl, kubelet, kubeadm, all the package required package. It will set up. So starting control plane more Minikube in cluster, Minikube, CPUs 2, memory, disk, then OS release, preparing Kubernetes on Docker, all these things. So let's wait to start the Minikube local Kubernetes cluster. It will generate local certificates also. Then booting up the control plane means master node, preparing the master node. Then configure RBAC rules, role binding. Then configuring localhost environment. The none driver is designed for export who need to integrate with an existing VM. So most users should use the newer Docker driver instead, which does not require root. Okay. Then kubectl Minikube configuration will be stored in home Ubuntu. To use kubectl, our Minikube commands as your own user, you may need to replicate them. So already we have started Minikube server on the normal user. So that's why we don't need these. We don't have to perform these commands. Okay. If you are setting up the Minikube cluster using the root user, then you have to use this command to move your Minikube setup to the current user. So for now, we don't need. Okay. So this can also be done automatically by setting up the environment Minikube none user true, then verifying Kubernetes components, then enable add-ons, storage provisioner, default storage class, then done. Kubectl is now configured to use Minikube cluster and using the default namespace by default. Okay, so I just said that namespace. So by default there are 3 namespaces. So all our microservice can be used in default, or you can create a separate namespace. Okay. So namespace, we have the separate topic. So next, to check the Minikube status, command is Minikube status. Minikube type is a control plane, master node, host is running, kubelet is running, API server is running, kube config is configured.
Config.
And Minikube configuration present in the home directory in a .kube directory. So keep remember that in every type of Kubernetes cluster, every installation of Kubernetes cluster, all your cluster configuration present in your home directory. Okay.
Okay.
Configure in the normal user, not in root user. If you have configured root user, you have to move this your .kube out into your current user. So you are using the current user only, and your cluster, whether it is EKS, COPS, kubeadm, kubespray, EKS, AKS, GKE. So all your cluster configuration present in the home directory, you have to run the ls-a means to show the hidden file. But directory is .kube, cd .kube. Then here we can see the config file. So here we can put the cat config. So this is the API version. Okay, API version v1 clusters certificate in .minikube. It will generate the local authority certificate. Version is 1.2. Here you can see the all your cluster details. And as we see the official document server, it generated the one API server URL. Okay.
Okay. In this server, we can access this.
Yes, this is a local server. We can't access outside. So this
Okay.
Minikube uses the port 8443. Okay. Then provider Minikube version, name, namespace, user, name, current context Minikube, all these details. This is the Minikube cluster details. This we can find in the home directives.kube.
Shivadas, there there was one server it automatically generated, and you mentioned that we can use it locally. So how we can use it locally? Every time we use that URL outside in a Chrome or somewhere, and we will be accessing like Jenkins, right? So how we will be using that URL locally? By connecting master and slave?
So this will yes, for this also by exposing the port numbers now, so we can access whenever we deploy this one now. So we can access to the outside, so that I will show you later. Okay.
Okay.
Here command is to check the status of Minikube. Command is Minikube status. Then verify Minikube cluster information. Command is kubectl cluster info. So Kubernetes control plane or master is running on the local IP 8443 and core DNS is running. So it is also used the DNS. So using this DNS, we can access our cluster outside, or we can integrate with the Jenkins or GitLab. Okay. For now, we are not given any name. Okay, domain name. It is just using the local IP. 8443 API v1 namespace of this proxy. So this is a cluster info. Then to check the event of the cluster, command is kubectl get events. Let's see how we can see the events. Starting, node has sufficient memory, did error, node disk pressure, node not ready, node ready, register node, in control, normal, starting, all the events of our Minikube we can check. Finally, our Minikube is started. Then object node current IP only. Then to check the config view, let's check this command, view the kubectl configuration. This config view. So you can go by .kube directory, or to view the cluster configuration, you can use this command also kubectl config view, or you can go to the .kube directory and then you can view the config file. Both way it is possible. So this is a now cluster configuration. Now let's run one sample applications or sample microservice. So we have to create deployments to run the container on the Kubernetes cluster. So there are two options. One is the using kubectl and other option is using the YAML. Okay. So in the real-time scenario, we use only YAML. Okay. To run the container on the Kubernetes, so we can use a kubectl, run hello minikube. It is picking the image, gcr.io is the Docker Hub registry, image means Google containers. This is the image, port number 8080. So to run the container on Kubernetes using the kubectl command is this one, kubectl run. You can give the any name and you have to give the Docker Hub registry or container registry name or port number. Okay, so all the parameter we can see the letter, but this is the command. So let's try this to run the container on the Kubernetes. Minikube started. So when we run the container, it will create a pod. To check the pod, kubectl, already we have seen that pod is a wrapper on the container. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here we can see that when we run the container so it will create a pod. Okay. In
Okay.
that pod there is a container. Hello. Command is to get pods. To describe pods. Yes.
In one pod we can have multiple containers.
Yes. So describe pod command is kubectl describe pod. Again, sorry. Describe kubectl not get describe pod then pod name. Here you can see how the pod description name hello minikube default start time labels annotation running IP containers which contains from where it pick image then port number. I just seen that whenever we create a pod so it get one assign IP port number all this. So this is done by the kubelet and proxy. Then mount. So every pod steer the storage and networking of the cluster. So mount, then condition volume, then node selection. You said na, so where it will run. So here also you can check that successfully assign default to the IP. So we have the only one cluster, that's why it select. If you have the multiple worker node, so control scheduler, job of scheduler is to schedule the pod on the freeable worker node. Okay, in the real-time scenario. So they assign first, it will assign, it will check that scheduler will check that default scheduler from default scheduler. What it doing? Successfully assign default only. We have the only one hello minikube to the IP. The job of scheduler is to schedule the our pod. So it checks the which node is free. Then according to that, it will schedule the pod. Then pulling image successfully pull, created container, started container. So this can say if something error is there, so you can troubleshoot by describing the pod. So you can check here event. So if something is config error, something, there are many errors in the real-time scenario. So you can so first troubleshooting is by describing the pod. Okay. And one more troubleshooting is, so you can check logs also. So you still get pods, then you can check the log also. You should get logs. So logs, then pod name. So there is no log.
Logs will display error message or something we can consider.
Yes. Error messages, something code is error, some all connection error, DB connection.
If it is not successful, then it will be under logs. If it is successful, it will be empty. Okay.
Yes. So now let's create a deployment. So just pod. So in the real-time scenario, we don't use the directly create a pods. So rather we create a deployments. Okay. So let's create a deployment. So hello node image. So let's follow the official guide. So all the command I took from the Kubernetes official guide. Okay. So here Minikube dashboard. So that will start. So here create a deployment. So let's run this kubectl create deployment hello node image. This is a registry. Okay. So here I have copied. Let's run this. So we are creating deployments. So we have the separate topic on the pod deployment service. Okay. So for now, let's remember, just remember the name pod deployment. Okay. We have the separate topic on this. Okay. So here to check the deployment command is kubectl get deployment. Here we can check the hello node deployment. Our short form command you can use also kubectl get deploy also. Okay. Then here Then we can also deployment create pods. So we can say pods, still get pods. There are two pods. One is the hello Minikube, then one is the hello node. Hello node is for this deployment. Then now we will expose. Now we have created the pod deployment. Now we will expose. So we can check the event also. Kubectl get events. What are the event we have performed on a kubectl? Okay. Then we can also config you. We have done this one. Now to expose our microservice to the internet, we have to use the service. Okay. Service with a different topic. Okay, on the service. So that. So for now, we will export this deployment. Okay. So let's use our command. So export deployment with the node port range. Okay, node type is a node port. So there are, to expose our deployment, there are services like a node port, load balancer, cluster IP. Okay. For now, we will use the node port and target port for this deployment. Internal port is 800. Deployment exceeds exports. Okay. So it will create a service. Kubectl get service, or you can use kubectl get SVC. So our hello node. So when we set up the Minikube now, by default it will create one Kubernetes service cluster IP. This. Okay. Then our deployment hello node, we have export this deployment. IP is a node port, cluster IP this one internally. Internal port is 8080, and outside we have to use this one 30117. So randomly this port number assigned by the Kubernetes, but in the real-time scenario in deployment we can assign the custom port also. Okay.
Yeah.
For now we are using this one. So this port is given by the Kubernetes as a node port. So here we can use this one. We can, if it is working or not, we can check using curl command. Let's copy the public IP of this Ubuntu instance. And port number is 30117. Age is 16 seconds. Let's put this here also. Okay, service is running here. Okay, we can also browser also. We can do the curl request, whether it is working or not. Then also we can access from browser. So browser we have to use this our IP and port number. So here also internal also we can use the Minikube IPlets command. Minikube. So Minikube private IP is this one. So you can access our service using the private IP also. Then port number is 30117. Both private and public. Same output. Also, we can access this service on browser. So let's copy this public IP. Then port number is 30117. So our service is working on the browser.
Internet.
Yes, on the internet. So we can expose microservice in the Kubernetes using we have to use the Kubernetes service. So this we have the separate topic on the pod deployment service. Okay, so don't worry. To delete this cleanup, this one, so we can also use this. We have the command kubectl delete. So to delete deployment, we can use command is kubectl delete deployment. Now we can see that there is no deployment, nothing. Then also the pod will also disappear at hello node. Okay, so this is one first one. Then we can also delete service also kubectl get svc. Then let's delete the service hello node. Service name is hello node, and we can check that hello node disappeared. So also we can stop the Minikube delete this one. For now, we don't have to perform. So this is all about the setting up the Minikube or local Kubernetes cluster on the single EC2 instance, and we can practice.